Jan Bunge is director at Squint Opera, which is a digital creative studio and consultancy. One of his key projects is Spaceform, an immersive platform for presenting architectural designs and master plans. And it's a collaboration between Squint Opera, BIG and UNStudio. And it provides a virtual workspace hosted in the cloud, offering a new way for remote teams to meet and collaborate, which seems a highly relevant tool right at the moment. But before we get on to Spaceform, Jan, the adaptability of people and organizations to change the way they work as a result of COVID-19 has been pretty remarkable, I always think. It's accelerated a wider uptake of digital technology, from meetings like this to virtual medical diagnoses. How is that impacting on the way we work in the built environment professions, do you think?
I think the really quite astonishing change for us is that we all used to think that, you know, if you work in a team, you have to be in the same place. And you know, we have offices in New York and in London, but we obviously work with a lot of firms who have offices all over the place. And I think it's fair to say that today, if you run an international business and you have to put together a team for a project, the consideration of space or where this person is located is less important, and it really comes only down to time zone, which I feel like, you know, in some way we're getting, you know, better teams, because, you know, you can pick someone from Barcelona and Paris and London, and you know, they can all collaborate as long as, you know, it works time wise. So I think that's really, you know, a positive to have this kind of flexibility. But at the same time, we also feel, you know, like everybody else, the negative impacts of remote working. And you know, foremost, I think the problem is that we all work on, you know, fast-moving, complex projects, which constantly need, you know, tweaking and shifting. And normally in a studio setting, you know, we would all be in one room, and I would just pass by your desk and look at your screen and see, oh, this is not quite what I was thinking, and we have a quick chat, and then that gets corrected. But now, you know, we do morning stand-ups with the teams where we talk about just the task of the day and how far people progressed yesterday. But then you cannot check in every hour. You know, people feel very micromanaged very quickly. So I feel like, you know, this is a challenge that we haven't quite solved yet.
And in wider programs, I mean, we've been talking about smart cities for some time, and COVID-19 will surely accelerate that as we become more comfortable with all sorts of technologies, you know, especially if we're monitoring our health and location, you know, every minute of the day almost at the moment. Do you think we're going to see smarter cities coming out of COVID-19?
I definitely feel like this whole discussion has accelerated, and one of the drivers is maybe you know, maybe two drivers. There's a much, you know, more discussion today around public health and well-being, and then the second big topic that we see is this quest for you know, decentralizing services. So I think everybody kind of agrees that on a neighborhood scale, you know, you can decentralize a lot of the services that are today provided in a centralized fashion, and the benefit of that obviously would be to create, you know, more resilient and more sustainable places. So I think, you know, there's a lot of positive to be said on this. You know, the big problem that nobody has solved yet is obviously around, you know, privacy and you know, data security. But I feel like there's a couple of good projects that are trying to, you know, be lighthouse projects where, you know, people have a good approach. Like, I mean, UNStudio at the moment is working on a project they call Brainport in the Netherlands, where it's a very kind of bottom-up open data, open source kind of approach, where the key belief is obviously that the data in itself is very beneficial. If we want to optimize the flows of matter and come to more efficient ways of building and living in cities, then we need to understand the inner workings better. But at the same time, this has to happen in a way where all the data is not only anonymized but also openly accessible to everybody. So I think there's a couple of projects at the moment where we're trying to figure it out. But what I get scared about is when you look at the other approach, which is only focused on optimization. Optimization is super important, and if we want to keep living on this planet, we have to start finding those efficiencies. But there is obviously at the moment a very strong drive in some places, namely China, that I would argue they have tilted a bit too much, only looking at the benefits that you can achieve through optimization, and forgetting that at the same time we have to create places that people actually want to live in and enjoy, and so the quality of the space and the quality of the experience, is equally important to our need to optimize, I think.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, you've been working with BIG and UNStudio on a virtual reality design tool. Can you tell us a bit more about that? And is it something that will be generally available, or is it very specific to those two companies?
So it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago that I was on a call with an architect, a Zoom call like this, discussing a project, and the design had just changed. And so he was doing a little scribble on a piece of paper and then showing me the paper on the camera with his pen, trying to explain, how this project has changed. And we were both sitting there thinking, this is crazy. We are talking about a spatial setting in a 3D environment, and our tools are still limited to a 2D way of explaining. I mean, yes, we are building 3D models, but we're still communicating them on a screen or on paper. And so at this point, we thought, it's time to figure out the potential benefits of working in a virtual 3D environment. And we started with a year of in-depth research, really, where we talked to a lot of architects and engineers and some of our clients, and what I was really keen to do was to look at the workflow and do this in a very kind of pedantic manner, where you basically start at the moment that you have an idea for a project, and then you go through every step that you take. So you get 2 students to research for 2 days, and this is the PDF that they produce, and then you do this, and then you do 10 options, and then you do whatever, yeah. And on each step of the way, each task, we asked 2 questions. We asked, could this benefit from automation? And the second question was, would this lend itself well to be actually done in real-time 3D? And after this, year of research, and we analyzed all our findings, and then we started to prioritize, what everybody felt was the most beneficial, and that informed our whole work plan for Spaceform. And then COVID happened, and within a couple of weeks, most of our clients Squint works a lot on fairly large scale projects, which tend to go on for many years, and we often get involved in a very early stage in the conceptual phase, helping to communicate those projects. And so all of these projects have very diverse teams, and 4 weekly or 6 weekly alignment meetings. So suddenly, I have all these clients calling us, telling us that, we have a real problem because we have to do these alignment meetings on these very complex projects, but we have 50 people on a Zoom call, only one is presenting, and the rest is just switching off after a couple of minutes, right? It's very difficult to stay focused in that setting. And could you not just do something that's a bit more engaging? And so we kind of paused the main development and really focused for the last 6 months on creating a Spaceform presentation app, if you like, which is in some way like a traditional presentation that you would do in PowerPoint, but instead of us going from one 2D slide to another, we are all in a 3D space, and you switch and take me through from one 3D environment to the next. And what that does is it gives you the freedom to look around and to move around. And you can be on your desktop or you can be in VR, but the pure fact that you can go a bit closer to the model, or you can change your position, just means that people are more engaged. And so at the moment we are testing this software on a couple of projects, and it's a very much kind of B2B service that we are offering, where instead of just doing a film, we would help our clients to design those presentations. And at the moment it still needs a lot of our input, but in the near future, our plan is to create a platform that can work as a standalone piece of software that anybody could use.
Very good. So the tech sector has been, I'd say, one of the winners during the pandemic. So has it been good for you?
I think we are in a position, I think, a couple of companies find themselves in, where when COVID hit, most of our pipeline was full with projects that are fairly large, and still, they were kind of too far in to actually stop. And if you work on, opening a museum in 3 years, then, yes, there is a disruption at the beginning of a pandemic, but people went back to work and stuff, slowed down a bit, and, we're obviously not growing as much as we had hoped, but in general, we were kind of lucky in that stage. The problem that we are seeing is that, there is definitely evidence that, these large projects, if you're maybe not starting them today, like you would maybe wait until there's a vaccine, and so there is a delay, but our projection is that we're going to feel the impact properly in the new year, because there will be a lag in the big projects starting for quite a while. So from a purely economic perspective, I think we are kind of hoping for the best, preparing for the worst.
Yes, no, I think many of us are in that situation. It's a very uncertain future. So Jan, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, and great to speak to you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for having me.